Hero Time starts now.
Hey guys, it's Barry Yandell. William T. Spears from Black Butler, Little Demon of Soul Eater, Mr. Tubon Clay from One Piece, the new Hugin from Decadence, and a number of other shows you're familiar with, including SSSS Gridman, in which I am the voice of Alexis Carib. So, to all you meat things, I thought I'd share that I'm an anime maverick.
From the land of crazy hairstyles and overly ridiculous weapons, it's time for the Anime Mavericks podcast. And now, here they are, your Anime Mavericks.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Anime Mavericks podcast, the official anime podcast of RVT. We want to thank you guys once again for joining us here this week on The Shades.
I'm Yummy Angie.
And I'm Care Crystal.
We, of course, are your Anime Mavericks, and we're here to bring you all the anime news, reviews, and interviews that you crave. And speaking of interviews, we have a very special guest with us here tonight, someone I've been looking forward to talking to for some time. Ladies and gentlemen, it is time for one excellent interview as we welcome our guest at this time, Mr. Mike Pollock.
Oh, that's exciting. I didn't realize he'd be here. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Oh, real quick, shout out to Agent Beardman for the tier 1 sub. Thank you. Always appreciate that. So, Mike, we always like to start off with a little bit of fun here, since, of course, we all know you as the maniacal Dr. Eggman, the man who created many robots out of animals, which I will never
put him in a shot. Put him in a shot right there. And there we are. That's fine.
Yes.
Thank you.
So, if you were to design a robot based on an animal, because we're not going to be doing animal cruelty around here, what animal do you think would work best?
A sloth, because the suspense of figuring out what it's going to do would be fantastic. Turn it on. And in it now. Here it goes. Huh? Could be. That would be fine.
I can imagine. And especially for Sonic, that'd be brutal. But anyway, let's get down to business here. Like we said, you know, amongst the other roles that we'll be getting to along the way, of course, the role everyone knows you for is Dr. Eggman, Dr. Iva Robotnik, for those who want to be.
Hi! Thank you.
So what is it like, you know, considering the fact that you've done this character for so long, longer than most voice actors ever keep continuing a character, what is it like being able to hold out that long?
It's very tiring. I'm kidding. It's a tremendous honor. Actors are freelancers. We're independent contractors. We work when people need us to work, and if they want someone else to be working instead, then someone else will be working. The joy of not only being asked to come back year after year, but when things get recast and I'm invited to audition again, that's really cool too. Especially when they say, sure, you can come back. So doing it is great. Being asked to come back and do it again is even greater.
Yeah, I think at this point you've gone through like at least two, if not three different variations of Sonic at this point. That's just insane.
It's a blessing. It's a joy. It's an honor. It's fantastic. It's more fun than humans should be allowed to have.
Hey, if I could afford to fly out to either, well, at this point, Texas or Hollywood, though New York would certainly not be a bad call as well. I wouldn't mind doing that to give it a shot.
Perfect. Well, these days, thanks to lockdown, we can do it from anywhere.
That's true. That's true.
I haven't left home in weeks.
Yeah, this pandemic's killing all of us, and not just physically.
I haven't left home in almost a year.
Technology is our friend.
But of course, you've done other roles as well. Let's not just focus on the big man there.
All right, then.
I knew this was going to be fun the minute we planned this. I
certainly hope so.
But of course, aside from doing other stuff for 4Kids like Arthur Hawkins in Yu-Gi-Oh, some characters in Kirby and stuff like that, a couple of characters in Pokemon, you're still doing work on other stuff to this day. I mean, most recently you played, Deus Prometh in Promare, a very awesome movie, by the way. Glad you got to be a part of that.
Me too.
So, what does it feel like going into the booth after all these years? Like, how much has changed since it started?
I came in just as digital was becoming a thing, but before then I started in radio, so I am no stranger to reel tapes. There's not much call for this skill, but I can still take a razor blade and some splicing tape and a grease pencil and make some audio magic if it came to that.
You mean like Gary Owen?
Yeah, basically. I don't usually keep my hand on my ear, but I could. I spent radio in the analog age, and then by the time I transitioned to voiceover, digital was a thing. So I have no idea how people did some of the dubbing stuff we do without the joy of Pro Tools. But it's the biggest change, I would say, is scripts going from paper to digital, which they haven't in many places, but a lot of places they'll have an iPad or some other tablet, and the script will be on Google Drive. So one person makes an edit, and it shows up on everybody else's screen. That's really cool.
Yeah. Yeah, that always helps, especially when everyone wants to stay on the same page. The last thing you want is someone getting their script,
literally
thinking one thing is going to be said, and then another thing gets said, and all of a sudden, uh-oh.
Of course, it makes it a challenge to scribble notes. You can't really take a pencil and draw on the screen. They don't like that. Hang on, I have to type in the change you're making.
Edgy, you were going to say something?
I said at least if for when if you change something, it updates to everything else. If they have to note it for something else in a different session for someone else, that's nice. But yeah, if you
Color
just want to
coding
make
is your
yourself a
friend.
note or something, you might not be able to do that with the digital thing. That's interesting.
Yeah, real quick, thank you to Omega Snakebox for the raid. Hey, 7 more people joining us. Thank you very much.
He's my friend, by the way.
Yeah, well, still appreciated. Hope you guys enjoy the chat we got going on here. So, Kira, you said you had some questions for Mike.
I do, but they're mostly Dr. Eggman related, so I don't know. Do you mind?
Let's throw one out for now, and then we'll keep it going. We got plenty of things to talk about, I'm sure.
Anyway, what was your favorite and least favorite game to record?
As I am keen to say, I don't play favorites just because it's not fair to everything else that's not your favorite. I had tremendous fun with when 2010 came and Colors and Generations and the writing style took a comedic turn, and I loved my comedy. So that was a fun change of the previous stuff, which was just angry, taunting, mean gameplay. But the plethora of dad jokes, not a bad thing for me. But I love working just in general. So my favorite part of any game is me being in it.
That's usually the response I get. So I hear from people. By the way, for anyone in the chat asking, yes, if you guys have questions, feel free to post them in the chat. I will be monitoring, and if there's any questions I think we can ask, I will throw them in there. So I'm trying to think like where I could take some of these questions, because this is like, again, we're looking at a very specific thing. Like Dr. Eggman is the big thing. Like that's a lot of the questions are going to aim at that. But you've done so much other stuff. Like, okay, I think the thing we had to talk about, and I brought this up before the show, is that 4Kids, most of the work you did, especially in your early days, was with 4Kids Entertainment, and we're not going to get into the behind-the-scenes drama of that company. That's not your thing. That's not your fault. We're not getting into that. But the one thing I do want to bring up is the fact that a lot of the voice actors at 4Kids, yourself most definitely included, have become very well remembered as years have gone on. Yourself, Dan Green, Eric Stewart, Veronica Taylor. What is it about you guys that you think may have made that your roles so iconic and so memorable?
Part of it is the target audience. When you're growing up, the things you watch on TV in your childhood become really important. It's because the brain is designed to learn stuff, and you're absorbing stuff, and suddenly, wow, I'm watching TV. This is important. This is so important. So we have the advantage of, if you grew up with us, we're the voices you remember. And then new voices come in and show, I don't think that voice is different. So we have that on our side. But I guess without sounding terribly egotistical, we're good actors. We're good at what we do. Something that surprises people is dubs are recorded separately. So when we record, we may not be listening to the person we're talking to because they might not have recorded yet. So we're imagining in our head what the other person's going to sound like. And then once everybody's voice is there and fully assembled, it sounds like we were all together all the time. That's not always easy to do. The fact that we can do that and it sounds good is a testament to us and the engineers and the directors making it sound flawless.
It is definitely a testament to your guys' talent that you guys can put all that together and make it sound like you're naturally all in the same room. It's something I've always appreciated about voice acting in general, is just how much talent it takes to make it sound that natural.
As I like to say, our skill is reading aloud without making it sound like we're reading.
Something I've tried to learn how to do as years have gone by. Success is debatable.
Best of luck.
Mega Sigmuch, you were late to this. We already asked that question. That was like my opening question after.
That'll learn you.
This is why I have the VODs, folks. So if you missed a question, we come back to it later. But yeah, like, so let's start focusing on the good doctor and let's really start digging deep into this. Like, you know, considering the fact that you had to, you already were coming from a legacy of top actors before you took the role. I mean, you had to end up outshining Jim Cummings of all people. How does that?
He's very good.
Yeah,
he's very talented.
Yes, like man is a legend for a reason. What was it like when you first found out you were taking the role, and when you found out he had done it prior to that?
I said, "Oh, he's really good. He does obscure impressions like Walter Winchell and Sterling Holloway. That's pretty cool." Tigger and Winnie the Pooh, for those listening at home. So I said to myself, "Well, that's a nice mantle to share. So how cool." He may still not know who I am, and that's okay too. But occupying the same space is better than nothing.
That is very true. And the fact that you're now the one more remembered as Dr. Eggman than I would even say he was as Dr. Robotnik in Sat AM.
Depends on who you ask.
Well,
what?
Yeah,
I'm sorry, did I say that aloud? I'm sorry.
You're not wrong, though. You're not wrong. I'm sure some people would like to argue that.
Depends on who you grew up with. If Jim Cummings was your childhood, you're no Jim Cummings. Well, no, because you didn't grow up with me. All right.
I grew up with both, so I can appreciate both.
See?
Probably why I'm a more well-balanced human being. I can appreciate everything.
Thank you.
And of course, fans are asking about upcoming stuff as well, which we'll get into later.
Well, here's what's coming up. Sorry.
We saved that for the end of the show, and that's of course avoiding the dreaded NDAs, but we'll get to.
Of course.
Yeah.
I can't tell you.
Yeah, exactly. Sonic the Jedi does ask one question that's interesting here. He's curious about what you think of Sonic fan dubs.
Well, there's one infamous one in particular that I'm not a fan of, because it's a weird situation because it's not something I've been involved with. That's not entirely true. When I was old and when I was young. Hello, what? When I was young and growing up and learning that I wanted to do something in the audio-related field, I made my share of homemade audio productions, which if I were to dig up out of a dusty old box would sound very primitive now. Technology has improved to the level of where if I had that technology, if I had more than a battery-operated cassette recorder, things would sound a lot better. But it's a great training ground. It's great practice. It straddles some weird legal lines that I would feel odd about publicizing. But sure, it's a good way to learn. That would depend on how close your procedure mirrors professional procedures that you might graduate into when you start working in a real-life situation. But sure, it's a great training ground. Of the controversial ones with the four-letter words in a character's mouth that doesn't normally have such things, that's a little more questionable, and I've dealt with that in the nicest possible way. I'm not going to stop anyone from doing that, mostly because it's not my character, and I don't have the legal right to stop you, but I will keep my distance because that's the professional thing to do.
Absolutely, yeah. I think with fan dubs, yeah, it is a good training ground. It's a good ways to practice and make sure you know what you're doing, at least to some extent. But some people differentiate just a fun fan dub with an actual produced work, and that can lead to some trouble. And that's where a lot of the controversies come from.
There's also potential trouble if you end up working for the company involved, and they say, "Hey, you made fun of us when you were younger." Yeah.
Yeah, you'd be surprised how many of these companies will look up your past if you're not careful.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I have heard. Now, our buddy Akira Coops has a really good question. I like this one. As years go by, new VAs for Sonic and his friends come and go, and you remain as the good doctor. Have you ever felt you've served as a mentor figure for the new VAs to give advice on how Sonic and company should be?
We're not that together. The 4Kids stuff was all dubs and games, and we all recorded separately. We'd see each other in passing, and we would, after the initial meeting, if we bump into each other, it wasn't all, "Hey, Sonic, hey, Eggman." It was all, "Oh, hey, Jason. And what else? What are you up to? What you doing? Oh, great. Heard you in the last episode. That was good." But there's not a lot of talk about work when we're not working. With the 2010 and forward cast, they were in LA. I remained in New York and saw each other a handful of times, if that. Our first meeting in person was when we were workshopping the Sonic Boom show, and we were all thrust into a room. That's a lie. Our first meeting was at a dinner where I got there late because I was just flying in and insisted on stopping off at the hotel to freshen up without looking at a map to see that the airport was here, the restaurant was here, the hotel was here. The intelligent thing would have been gotten straight to the restaurant. So I got there late. Everyone was already seated and everyone talking loudly, and I was waving at people in the distance, not knowing who anyone was. The next day we met at the recording studio and sat awkwardly on couches, again, not knowing who anyone was. Beyond that, we became fast friends, but still, we would see each other so infrequently, and we would often record remotely. So I'd be in New York listening on headphones just like this, and they're all in LA having a grand old time. And there's not a lot of time for chatter offline or in between takes if we're in person. So no, I trust my fellow actors to be good at what they're doing, and our director to make sure he's getting the performance out of us that he wants.
That might be.
If they asked, I would have said, "Yeah, sure," but nobody asked. Don't meddle. Don't be a nudge.
No, that might be something that might be changing with the way social media has been. I think we might be seeing a lot more communication and interaction with each other. So who knows? Maybe we'll start to see that evolve.
It's neither encouraged nor discouraged. So if it happens, great. But generally, when we're in there recording, we're spending our precious off mic time chatting about life.
Yeah, I've heard many a stories about what goes on in the booths when, in between takes. Speaking of which, one of my favorite questions I always love to ask is, given how long you've been in that booth, you had to have some fun behind the scenes stories, silly moments that have happened that you love to recount from time to time. What's some of your favorites on that?
Sure. Generally, when I mess up, I make sure that the train that's derailing goes all the way off the tracks. So I'll launch into show tunes, Little Ethel Merman, hello! Very often, and no one questioned this until I believe it was Cindy Robinson at one of our records. I will call for a line as if I'm on stage and have memorized lines, and I forget my line. You would call for the prompter or the director or somebody looking at the script. You yell line, and they give you your next line. When you're recording in a voiceover situation, you've got a script in front of you, either on paper or on a screen. So it makes no sense to call for line, but it's funny. So at one point I screwed up and just line. Why do you yell for line? Why do you call for line? It's funny. It's for the exact reason why you asked me why I do it, because you don't do that. So, and then I will just wacky voices that might come into my head. There is on my SoundCloud a delicious montage that a client made of a very boring narration about tax, finances, and accounting, factoring, loan factoring. Completely boring and dry, but my screw-ups were so hysterical. Can we make a montage of that? Sure. And they did. You're too much fun I have. Because I do.
Oh, that's always fun. Kira, you got any more? Huh?
It's been Tales from the Booth.
Oh, I'm keeping that. Tales from the booth. I like that. So, Kira, do you have any other questions? You said you had more questions. What's your next one?
Actually, no, one of them got thrown out the window because of what Mike said earlier about them not recording together during the 4Kids Day.
Fair enough. All right, fair enough. We'll save your last one for a little bit. But anyway, my wife just typed a question in the chat here because she's.
This is an outrage.
But no, my wife asked because she knows you played Dr. Hank McCoy, aka Beast, in Astonishing X-Men.
Mm-hmm.
She wanted to know who's your favorite member of the team.
Well, since I voiced Beast, it would have to be Beast.
Well, kind of keep it simple there. To be fair, she's a Nightcrawler fan herself, but that's her.
If I voiced Nightcrawler, that would be my favorite too.
It was worth a shot. Angie, do you have any questions? You've been quiet over there.
Yeah, I was just trying to think. I don't know if it would dovetail into what we're holding over for towards the end with the plugs, because you're one of the we don't talk to many people who voice actors who were based in New York for a bit. So I was kind of curious about what the voice acting scene has been like in is like in New York during your time.
It's much colder.
Well,
Apart from that,
I live in New York.
Thank you. It's a much more intimate group of people. One thing we can do that I've learned the LA people can't, we can hop on a bus or a subway and get from one studio to another. They're in traffic all the time. My traffic involves coming in from the suburbs to New York, but once I'm in the city, I can bop around in the blink of an eye. Opportunities are different. LA, Hollywood, obviously the big mecca of recorded film and video and animation. But we have our share in New York, and with the tremendous compliment of the Sega people for doing Sonic is they've got to shell out extra money for me. They've got to rent a second studio that I'm going to be in and make accommodations for me to be involved. That is extremely generous, and I'm extremely grateful. And there are those times when they need me in LA where we're going to put you on a plane and jump in a hotel and give you food. Well, isn't that nice? So, yeah, that's really cool. But when I'm there and I'm just doing ordinary stuff, weird, wonderful things, the opportunities that present themselves. And I love each and every one of them and would love to do more.
That's always fun. And hey, you get free accommodation. Come on, you don't turn that down.
No.
No.
Well, it would be worse if they said,
insane to turn that down.
It would be worse if they said, we're going to fly you out, but we got nowhere for you to stay. So
good luck. Good luck with that. No.
Yeah.
All right. Now, okay. My wife with another good one on this one. We're not going to ask for favorites. We already covered that, but here's a good one for you. What was your most challenging voice to portray?
Any of the voices with over the top yelling. A lot of video games, not necessarily Sonic games, but sometimes when Dr. Eggman gets really riled up and yells, it takes a toll. The longer he yells, the more of a toll. Some games, many games, like big death scenes. And one reason they hire actors who are willing to go out of their way, we will die for you in the biggest, loudest, messiest possible way. So there was one time where I started a game with a sore throat, and I looked at the script and realized what was going to be on. I said, hang on. Hello, ear, nose, throat doctor friend. Could you make an appointment for me for about 2 hours from now? I have a thing that I'm going to be yelling. And I was right. I started with a sore throat, ended up hoarse, and went right to the doctor for a checkup. I said, yeah, you just strained it. You'll be fine. But took a couple days for that to recover.
Yeah, that's never fun.
And the other big challenge when I was younger and stupider, I had a bout of laryngitis, which I've had many times in the past. And I figured, this will be gone in a week. No, it lingered for about a month or more before I figured I should see a doctor. So I found my first ear, nose, throat guy and found the magic of steroids. I got some steroid pills, popped them, and it was the coolest thing ever. within a matter of hours, the steroids did their job and my voice was coming back. And I said, this is healing right before my eyes. Wow. In the future, I've got my various ENTs on speed dial now. Hi, problem. Be right there. Thanks. Bye.
I know how that feels with the not talking thing for a month. That hurts.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Kara. What?
Oh yeah.
Oh.
The other question I have. Was there a point during reading the script where you do recording that's like, really? You want me to say that?
Actually, yes, there was. The infamous meme, the Pingus meme, snooping as usual.
Oh, God.
My first experience with that was an ambush at either an online thing or a convention or both. Again, younger and stupider, not realizing the power of the meme and the joy of fans getting an actor to say something as sort of a trophy piece. And that turned me off on requests for a while. So we would get the scripts for the Sonic Boom cartoon in advance so we could look at our stuff, highlight our lines. And I was going through, searching, highlighting. Huh? Really? Sam Freiberger, one of our script editor and one of our writers, I hopped on Facebook Messenger and said, really? What? Snooping as usual? Really? Oh, yeah. Okay. Went in, recorded, knew it would be a thing, had my phone, got me doing it live because I figured someone will want to see this on YouTube later, and they have. Waited a few months for the episode to be fully produced and aired, and the reaction was spectacular on the whole. And got back to Sam and said, well, there you go. You got your wish. Everyone was thrilled to see that line. Why? What about the line? Really? Here, read this on Know Your Meme. Oh, something dirty. I didn't know. I guess I should have known. Yeah. Yeah. All right, fine. So everybody learned something.
Yeah.
But I had no problem doing it as long as it's in the script because I'm figuring someone at Sega is aware of it and okay, that's what you want. I work for you. Yes, please.
Well, apparently my wife's enjoying this interview now.
Good. That makes two of us.
Though also Kara Coop says, on behalf of the Sonic fan base, I apologize for the bad fans.
Thank you so much. That'll change it.
Yeah, that'll make the problem go away, right?
Problem solved. Thank you.
Oh, jeez. And of course, we brought up the fan dubs earlier, and a lot some of your fans have been coming here. It's like, yeah, there's apparently a certain meme from the fan dubs that have been going around.
Yep. Yep. Okay.
You sound like you're trying to avoid that for a reason.
Well, I made a response video because, again, I have no problem with the meme itself and the fan dub itself, but people thinking it funny to, oh, could you do this thing? Can you record that? Can you do your version? No, I can't. For one thing, I'd get in big trouble, possibly lose the gig. No, thank you for asking. And after enough of those, I reached out to the social media team and said, mind if I make a video explaining why I'm not doing this? And I shared the text of what I was going to say. And I knew, being from the radio and advertising industry and knowing how to grab attention, I started the my video with, I've come to make an announcement, because that's what people wanted to hear. And apparently that makes people really happy that I said that much. So much so that they then ignore the heartfelt message afterwards saying, please don't ask me to fill a character's mouth with profanity. And I go on to say, if they don't want the character to be swearing, I'm not going to set a precedent of the character swearing. I'm a kind of a caretaker, so don't make me do that. Thanks for asking, but I can't do that. And again, that made most people understood it, but a large part of the people say, well, we got the first line, that's all, thank you. Really?
I guess the people don't take hints.
No, they do not.
Okay.
Yeah, as my wife put it best, assholes. Oh, bunch of assholes.
Someday, kids, you'll have a job that you'll want to keep, and you'll understand why you should be nice to the boys.
Yes, it's like please
Don't bite the hand that feeds you.
Yeah. Yeah, don't put your
That's a
favorite
regular
actor
thing around here.
don't put them in a position where that endangers their, job.
Yeah.
I don't know much, but they're in charge. Be nice.
Yes. All right, here's an interesting segue. Here's an interesting change up we can do, because one thing we don't often talk about is the fact that a lot of voice actors, and yourself included, often do commercial work. You've done a few IHOP commercials, and now game fans hunger for pancakes. What is there any kind of different experience doing commercial work as opposed to normal voice work?
That's a loaded question because to me it's all normal voice work. I'm an actor.
Okay, fair point. You get what I'm saying, though.
Yes. Compared to the animation character stuff, it depends on what the commercial is. If I'm doing a wacky character in a commercial, it's just like doing a wacky character anyway, or anywhere. But if I'm doing a straighter announcer read, like for IHOP or for Hooters or for anyone that's closer to my regular voice with a bit more presentation in it, it's what I know how to do. I trained for it. I was able to do it to some extent before I trained for it. And it's just the joy of what we do. We audition constantly. People think, you get a big gig, you're set for life. Dr. Eggman, about 2 days a year if I'm lucky. A video game might take 4 hours to record. And then I go home. And then there's nothing to do. If there's a TV series on Sonic Boom, we'd record 4 hours every 2 weeks, which was great. It was a nice constant stream of income. But in between of the 14 days in between, there are 13 days where nothing's happening. So yes, I'd like to fill up that time. Thank you very much. So we're constantly auditioning. And when you audition, you're competing against tens, dozens, hundreds of other people. And somebody picks you out of a crowded field and say, I want you. That's the biggest compliment ever. And that's so cool. So damn right, I'll show up and record your commercial or your boring audio book or your boring financial narration because you asked me to do it really nicely. And one thing people like that I can do is make boring stuff sound interesting. The loan factoring training program that I did, I don't know what I'm talking about, but I can make it sound like I do, and then make people who are interested because they have to take that video as part of their job. It'll be a little more enjoyable to listen to than it would be if somebody else had done it. So that's the joy of what we do. Constantly searching for work and occasionally striking gold and being chosen.
Yeah, that's what I've heard. Though, speaking of striking gold, like my wife just brought up another thing. We're keeping an eye on things. We've been looking through your IMDb, your Wikipedia, and all that. And one show we got to bring up, one little thing that you did. Tell us a little bit more about Master Tape Theater.
Sure. Interesting side note: Master Tape Theater was the highlight, the career highlight show on the Howard Stern channels. They would dig back through Howard's shows on terrestrial radio and do essentially very old best ofs. And the guy who was curating them allegedly was a character named Sir Hard and Thick. I'll let that sink in for you.
I get it.
And,
I get it.
Thank you very much. Hard to believe, I know, from Howard Stern.
Right?
Amazing.
And I was recommended for that gig by the lovely and talented Dan Green, who, for whatever reason, thought, you know what would be good for this? Mike. Okay. And I went in, I did some samples. I said, sure, you'll do. And for a good 2 or 3 years, I got to go up to Sirius XM, see their studios, which is an interesting side note because I want to think I've got the timeline right. I think I do. Earlier, 5 or 6 years earlier, I was laid off from my radio syndication gig temporarily. And one of the jobs that I had looked for was as a production guy at XM Radio at the time. They were just down in DC. And I went down on the train for an interview. It didn't go good. That's a lie. The interview went well. I sent them production samples. They were not impressed. They ghosted me. Fine. Years later, I'm still working for the then combined company for the Howard Stern channel as a little freelance gig. So that was cool. And me being the radio gig, it was extra cool because one of my idol is the wrong word. One of my favorite radio personalities, the late, great Lynn Samuels, did a show on Sirius, and she happened to be on air around the time that I was doing stuff, and I was there during her air shift, and I emailed and said, I'm doing some things as a like guest shot. Can I come up and visit you? Sure. And she was so welcoming. I helped her set up her a little techno gadget she was trying to set up. Said, I have one of those. I can help you with that. Cool. And we had a lovely little visit before and after my sessions. It was really cool. One of my former coworkers worked there too, so I got to see him. So that was a great time. I was not credited. I don't need to be credited, but I think I'm listed in one of the Wikipedia articles now. They gave me a lovely poster of promoting the show, and it was really cool. Never met Howard. That's a lie indeed. I met Howard earlier before I worked with him when a friend of mine interned at WNBC back in the days when he worked there. So I ran into Howard in an elevator once, which was nice. But I got to visit his studios for a thing for the Gary Delabate's dog was in some dog show or other, and they needed a character voice for the dog. So I did another fake British accent playing his dog, and that was cool. So yeah, nice. Until they eventually folded that feature, and that was that.
I'm guessing you went up to Dan next time you saw him, like, you owe me big time.
Yeah. We are generous to each other, so that worked out well, and I was forever grateful. Still am.
Makes sense. So, let's see. Got one of the fans was asking about a specific movie. This one's an interesting one, The Donkey King, that you did recently.
Mm-hmm. One of the many series of mockbusters that folks love to mock.
Yeah, look at this. Just wow.
Yeah, Donkey King was not so much a mockbuster as such, but it came from the same dubbing studio that brought you Ratatouille and Little Cars too.
Oh, good God.
And as I explained to people, we provide a service. We voice things that can't voice themselves. If you're going to dub something, you might as well hire people to do it well. And we're in New York. We're available. The check's always clear. So what the hell? There's no shame in that. People want there to be shame in that. People seem to take great joy in mocking me for being a part of it. And I explain, I love working. I don't care what I'm working on. I get to perform, and people give me money for the privilege. So, yes, I will. Thank you very much. What do you do for a living? Your job drudgery? Too bad for you. Mine's fun.
Yeah. Fellow voice actor Scott McNeil put it best that most voice actors are nothing more than polyphonic prostitutes.
We don't know where our paycheck is coming from. So if there's one available, someone's offering money, sure.
Exactly. That's not a bad thing. That's just how it is.
It's what actors do. It's acting. If you're in a movie where big bucks are flying around, that's great. Maybe you can take a little more time off. Or if you're in a TV series where you're working day after day for year after year, great. But even those come to an end, and then, well, where's all that money now? So we keep working because we love what we do, and we love that people are willing to hire us to do it. So we do.
So I guess that would be, again, coming all back around to the fan dub thing again. What if, let's say, someone did do a production, not so much a fan dub, because obviously you wouldn't be able to touch those, but if someone made like a homemade project, like a flash animation or something like that, and they had a little extra money to spend for a voice actor, would you be willing to work with something like that?
If it doesn't step on anyone's copyrights, especially anyone's copyrights that I'm currently involved with, yeah. I like most actors, I have a minimum, so we'd have to work out a reasonable rate. The Fivers of the world, not so great for our industry. But sure, if we can work on a reasonable thing. I don't do as much indie stuff as I used to, but I've been in some indie games recently. But those haven't come to me as a fan. Those are just open auditions, and I submit my auditions and they like me. And a couple of them had said, well, we'd love to have you for the lead, but we couldn't afford you for the lead because it's going to be not economical for either of us. I said, yeah, okay. But we have another role, a little bit smaller. basically an exaggerated cameo. Want to do that? We can arrange a reasonable rate for you. Sure. So I'm in some games, not as the lead, but as some memorable side characters. And they're indie games, but they're still really cool indie games. So when those come out, watch and see. You can look right now for games from Wadget Eye Games. The names that I should remember. Unavowed is one of them. And another one that's not Unavowed I can't think of now. But look at Wadget Eye Games, and I'm in a bunch of them. And those are technically indie games. And those were great fun and great learning experiences for everyone involved.
Hey, there you go. There you go. Ooh, good question here from I Rose from the Ashes. Is it a good thing or a bad thing if an actor is actually a fan of a series they're participating in?
It's a nice bonus, but it's not required. One thing I like to remind people when you go in to record a game, there are no consoles and no controllers and no cartridges. It's a script and maybe a screen if you're watching some video samples, but it's me and a microphone and some headphones and a script and a director on the other side of the glass. They're looking for people who can act and act well. For Sonic, I'm not a gamer. They don't require me to be a gamer. I'm an advocate for the stuff I'm in because I'm in it. But no, it doesn't necessarily help because the skills you need to play a game are not the same skills you need to act in a game. It's great to be a fan, and obviously I'll become a fan if you hire me to work on your thing. Sure, I love you. But they don't expect me to go in being a fan. And when I get cast for other stuff, they're not hiring me because, oh, you're the guy who plays Dr. Eggman. Earth Eclipsed, an audio drama podcast that is currently in production. Our work on it has wrapped. But open audition, submitted my stuff. They liked my stuff. They booked me. We had a lovely meeting. We had a lovely rehearsal. And right before the final record, by the way, we were doing some research into our actors, and we looked up Dr. Eggman. Oh, yeah, I do that. They had no idea. It didn't matter to them because I wasn't there to do Dr. Eggman for them. I was doing something else. A killer dramatic performance, if I do say so myself. But everything stands alone, and just being hired for something, you become a really big fan just because I'm proud of stuff I'm in. Even the Rat-Tat-Toings and Little Cars 3s. My part's good. I'm a decent actor. I do a decent job. The director quality can vary. But both the great directors and the lousy directors are satisfied enough with my work that they let me leave when they get what they want. Okay, that's it. You're done. Thanks. Bye. Okay. It's the least I can ask for.
Yeah. No, it is funny. I'm actually just double checking here, and actually, because of the fact that you're Dr. Eggman, I think you kind of had a little bit of typecasting with playing mad professors and doctors, because I'm seeing a number of different. You've got, of course, Dr. Eggman. We mentioned Deus Prometh from Premiere earlier. Dr. Hell and Mangazinger Z. Dr. Mustache and Jungle Emperor Leo. Seems to be a pattern here.
Correlation is not causation. Yes, you can. If you want to look through my Behind the Voice Actors page, you'll find lots of mustaches. But you'll also find Ella the Maid.
Yeah, I didn't say that all you did. I'm just saying there's a pattern there.
A lot of folks still don't realize that, first of all, I was Ella the Maid on Sonic X. But if you watch Sonic Boom, and you should because it's funny, I was also Fastidious Beaver and the Mayor. Different voices.
That's the beauty of a good voice actor. You can play multiple roles, different ranges, everything.
And one of the joys of Sonic Boom, the way it was produced, I got to do some scenes with myself and switch voices in real time. And I wasn't sure I could do that until I did. And I found out I could.
Well,
cool.
Not the first time you voiced the same character twice over. I mean, come on. Like Dr. Eggman, Eggman Nega, classic and new and Sonic Generations.
Right. The dubbed ones, though, for Sonic X and the other games, the games are generally recorded separately. So if we're doing multiple characters, all of one character, all of the other characters. With the two Eggmen, both Eggman, the two guys together in one scene, classic and modern, I asked, do they sound the same? Okay. Stand back. And I just read down the page, talking to myself. And that's what they wanted. I believe that was one take.
Yeah, actually, I can believe that. Because it's like, why bother, you can just read it down and it all sounds natural anyway. Unless for whatever reason they talk over each other at some point.
Yeah, but they chopped it up and put it where it needed to go, and it worked.
Yeah. All right. Angie, any other questions for Mike here?
Nah.
Okay.
I'm trying here. Kier, what about you?
Are there any character that you remember playing that goes off the wall bonkers?
Yeah. Can I remember one offhand? I don't know. They all do to some degree if I'm playing them. Yeah, there was one audition that I did that I didn't book very early in this portion of the career for a chicken being boiled alive, and I got to go rather crazy in the booth. Not crazy enough to book it apparently, but yeah, there have been some, and I'm sure I left with many lozenges removed from the tin. Yeah, all the time, and there are so many that I can't think of one. I wish I could, but yeah.
All right. Well, I think we're kind of winding down here because even I'm struggling to come up with questions. I don't want to force anything here. So the one question I always like to end with, and of course, this is, of course, not counting anything you can't talk about because we know NDAs exist and we hate them as much as anybody else, but they're there for a reason.
Do they?
Well, well, still. Regardless, is there anything upcoming projects you can share with us? Or, as I like to say, what can we expect from Mike Pollock as we head towards the future?
Earth Eclipsed, if you go to the lunar.co, I think should be their website. It is. Or any wherever fine podcasts are wherever fine podcasts are found, look for Earth Eclipsed and sign up. I'm only in one episode. I'm wondering if I should spoil it and tell you which episode it is. But I'll make the first batch of people listen to the whole thing until one of them says, don't bother, he's only in this episode. But you should probably listen to the whole thing because it's a continuous series arc thing. Right. And I have a very dramatic turn as a particular character that if you're used to wacky, goofy comedy Dr. Eggman, you will, I hope, be surprised that I do more than that. What else is in Sputnik from the Funimation family of companies? Sound Cadence, I believe, was just announced, and I'm in that. That's was a fun little live action thing as a Russian character. Some other upcoming releases from the Funimation family of companies to look out for. One big show that people will want to watch for that they might know from previous incarnations that I've not been involved with yet is coming out. I can't say any more than that, but I think sometime in the spring you'll want to watch for that. And a couple of big NDA'd games, not Sonic related, but one part of a major franchise that I would be delighted to be associated with. And then another one that I believe is also another franchise that I'm not quite familiar with, but lots of screaming, death, and profanity. So for the folks who like to hear me do profanity, you'll want to find those games too. Keep an eye on my social media profile. When I know they're out, you'll know they're out.
Yes. Speaking of which, make sure you guys follow Mike on Twitter. It's a Mike. You don't want to miss out on that.
Wait, let me do that. I'm doing it. Hang on. I have to make big. Thank you so much. Drinking and talking, kids. Don't. It's not safe.
No, it's not. No, but make sure you guys follow It's a Mike on Twitter so you can guys keep up with all the latest updates. Mike, it has been an honor and a pleasure. Thank you so much for taking the time to talk with us today.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been a joy, a pleasure, a privilege, and tons of fun.
All right, let's wrap things up here on our end. Let me just move this over here. Ladies and gentlemen, that is going to do it for us here tonight on the Anime Mavericks podcast. We hope you guys had a fun time tonight. If you enjoyed tonight's show and you haven't done so already, make sure you give us a follow to keep up with all our streams and more. And if you can, subscribe to get access to exclusive Twitch emotes, our VIP Discord channels, and our loyalty badges. Speaking of Discord, if you haven't joined already, we have a Discord server. We're very active on there. And while you're at it, consider giving us a server booster. It means better audio quality for the streams and a whole bunch of benefits for you guys. So check that out. In the meantime, we want to thank you guys for joining us as always here on RVTV. We are your Anime Mavericks, and we will continue to bring you all the anime news, reviews, and interviews that you crave. I'm the Shades.
I'm Yummy Angie.
And I'm Kier Christo.
And we'll see you guys. Nope. Sorry.
I'm Mike Pollock. That's who I am.
And we'll see you guys next time. Rock on!
Damn.
Special thanks to my patrons like Voice and a Frozen Traveler. Subscribe today to make these streams even better.